On the Sidelines, Episode 6.
When the game ends and those Friday night lights dim,
that's the cue to turn our attention onto the very players, coaches, and community that makes football in Union County great.
Join Tim Winters as he covers the game from every angle, here on The Sidelines.
Hey, Union County Football Nation. Thanks again for joining me once again. This is Tim Winters on The Sidelines. This week, with senior standout wide receiver from Weddington High School, Zach Goins. Before we jump into our interview with Zach, I want to thank you all once again for your kind support and all of those positive reviews on iTunes. You know, this show under the college and high school sports section in iTunes has been placed in the new and noteworthy section. It is a great honor, and it's all because of you guys for all of those reviews, for sharing the show, and it's really getting the word out and really making a positive impact on the student athletes here in Union County. So I thank you all so much. So with that being said, let's get right into the interview with Zach Goins. Zach, thanks for appearing on The Sidelines.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Happy to be here.
You know, Zach is a senior at Weddington High School who was a 4-year starter on the varsity football team. A wide receiver and defensive back, Zach has amassed some impressive stats during his tenure. 141 catches for 1,861 yards and 25 touchdowns. A 3-time All-Conference and 2-time All-Union County player, Zach is also in the top 7% of his class, and he's committed to spend the next 4 years of his life at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he will be a walk-on with the football program this summer. Zach, I've given our audience a little insight, so please share a little bit more about you personally. Where you grew up, were you born and raised in this area, and at what age did you start playing football?
All right. Well, I was born in Weddington. I've lived here all of my life. I started off going to school at Charlotte Christian. I went there until 4th grade. Then I made the switch over to Weddington. I'd played a little flag football and stuff, youth leagues like that. And I didn't start playing tackle football until 6th grade. I was on the middle school team all 3 years, and then freshman year I came in, and at our team camp at Wingate, I got pulled up to varsity for the first time and just played varsity for the rest of the 4 years.
Well, Zach, they say timing is everything, and your time at Weddington, you've been pretty fortunate. You've seen a football program that really has turned the corner and has really been one of the standout programs in the county over the last 4 to 5 years, and I think due in large part to the emergence of Tim Carson as coach when he replaced Justin Harden. If you could talk about the program, the growth of the program, and your growth from a freshman to a senior wearing the Weddington green and blue.
Well, Coach Carson, he came in 2 weeks before our season started, basically, and he just had a great turnaround of the program. We'd had, I believe, with Coach Harden, we had a 9-3 season before, but we had been 0-11 a few years earlier. So coming in with Coach Carson, he really turned around the program. We started out 7-5, then 9-3, then 11-3, and then 14-2 to finish it off. So getting better each year, Coach Carson really set the tone for Weddington football and what's to come in the future for us.
Zach, can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Coach Carson? I would imagine that as a freshman coming into a program, playing for a man with that stature, with that deep voice, he's imposing, slightly intimidating, I would think, to a freshman. Can you talk about your development as a player and playing for Coach Carson under that system?
Well, of course, coming in as a freshman, you're going to be intimidated by all the coaches, but especially Coach Carson, but he's a great guy. He always looks out for what's best for the kids. As you get older, he obviously as a coach, he's focusing on the seniors, trying to see what's best for them in the future to help them move along to the next step in their life. So getting older, you develop a more personal relationship with him, and he's just a great guy that wants what's best for the kids. And then when we're out there at practice, he may seem intimidating if you mess up, but half the time he's out there just cracking jokes with the rest of us, just acting like a kid out there. So I have a great relationship with Coach Carson. He's a great guy.
And that's awesome. That's what coaching is all about, really, at this level. We're going to make a transition here over to the academic side. In your intro, I talked about your academic performance. I always find it pretty interesting to see how a student athlete, as successful as you are on the football field and in the classroom, how do you go about juggling all of that? And, I guess before answering that, do you happen to play any other sports other than football?
Well, freshman year, I played JV basketball, and then after that, I just decided to tone it down, focus on football, and play. I still played church basketball and indoor soccer, which are both in the winter, so more rec league sports to just mess around and have fun with the guys.
Right. So, Zach, then tell us, how do you go about juggling? Although football is a fall sport, it truly is a year-round sport with all the off-season conditioning and programs, after class or before class. Talk about, how you go about juggling that academic side with the pull from football.
Well, it's definitely a struggle, but you have to be completely dedicated to it. It's a lot of late nights coming in from a Monday practice. We'll have our full install period and then practice and then watch film afterwards. So most of the time you won't get home until 7:30ish, and then gotta have dinner and get your homework done. So it's a lot of late nights, but it's all worth it, because if you don't succeed in the classroom, you won't be able to play on the field and make that next step in your life. So you really have to be dedicated and fully committed to both athletics and academics to be able to succeed like that.
Zach, when we talk about the academics and athletics and trying to juggle, being disciplined and really having time management are crucial in the overall process and getting things done in both the classroom and the football field. So how difficult, or was it difficult at all for you as a freshman and sophomore coming in, trying to establish yourself into a type of a routine? Did it become easier for you when you moved up as a junior or a senior?
I'd say it was pretty consistent throughout the 4 years. I've always been dedicated and able to focus on my studies and be able to get the job done when it needs to be done. So I can really just be able to focus and do what I know that I need to do in order to succeed both in the classroom and on the field.
That's awesome. And Zach, we're just a few weeks away from graduation, and looking back academically, athletically, what are you most proud of during your time at Weddington High School?
I'd say definitely just the constant improvement of the team, because like I said before, each year getting a better record, making a farther run into the playoffs, just seeing that consistent improvement and all of the hard work that specifically my class, seeing each year that we were there under Coach Carson, we improved, and to be able to go out playing in a state championship as a senior, that's just shows the improvement that we've made over the past 4 years, and hopefully they'll be able to continue that legacy, this tradition that we've made, and bring home a title next year.
Absolutely. Zach, we touched on this earlier, but, looking back on the Weddington football program and all the big wins that you have been a part of over the last few years, I always look back and try to figure out a big benchmark win in that time period. And, I'm thinking back to, I think it was the second week of October in 2012. And it was the win that I think it made everybody take notice of your football program. It was a big upset win over Porter Ridge High School, 7-0. It was a home victory for you guys. Talk about that game, its importance, and anything that you can remember from that ball game.
Definitely. Going into that game, we had the why not us mentality. We know that we'd had a win before that, my freshman year, when we played South Point in the playoffs, that we were the 16th seed. They were the number 1 seed in the state. So that was our motto then. And a lot of us had been on that team. So we reflected back to that and that mentality and just focused on that, the why not us, that why can't it be us that goes out to here and upsets this Porter Ridge team that they've been in 2 state titles. They won the league the past 2 or 3 years. So we were really just focused on shocking the world. And that's what we were able to go out there and do.
Yes, you did. And Zach, in those days, those Porter Ridge days, I always referred to them. They were like the New York Yankees. Everybody they had a target on their back, and any win against that team and your win against that team reverberated around the county. I remember, although I did not attend that game, I remember hearing shortly after that game about what a hard-hitting affair that was, as hard-a-hitting football game as anybody's ever seen in this area. I know it was intense. and obviously a big win for your program. But maybe you can just look back at some other big wins that you guys had. Obviously, your postseason victories, but maybe any regular season games that stand out as you look back on your 4 years.
Well, obviously you've got to go with the Cuthbertson game this past year and both of them, but specifically in the semifinals, just the game itself, but also just that atmosphere that we got to play in with, I think it was a Union County record for attendance. The stadium was loud and rocking the whole time. That was an incredible experience to play in, and the game being so exciting, just like the last one, except seemed to be just like that, except reversed with us getting the win. Along with that, the Porter Ridge game, obviously, the South Point game, both of our battles with Asheville the past 2 years up at their place, those were both down to the wire, exciting wins. And then this past year, the first game against Ardrey-Kell, the 31-28 victory, that was like going into the season, we weren't expecting that, and then looking back during the season, it didn't seem like it was as intense of a game, but I've reflected on the season and realized that was one of the most exciting games that we played all year to start the season off.
Yeah, it's always great to start off that season, first game with that first win. And was that a road win?
Yes, that was at Ardrey-Kell this year.
Yeah, that's even better. Now, let's talk about that state championship game. You know, you guys are up against a powerhouse offense, Northern Guilford, and, you know, looking back on your season last year, I think the team exceeded all expectations. You played great football the whole year. Your defense was, you know, as good as a defense that you're going to find in the Charlotte metro area. And you guys make it to the championship game. Not the results that you all were looking for, but and you guys played very well in that game despite some injuries to Keith Duncan, and they did have their injury to their big running back, but it was a low-scoring defensive battle. Talk about your feelings going into the game and coming out of that game with a loss. You know, what can you take away from that experience?
Well, coming into the game, obviously, we knew it was going to be a challenge. Great team. They've won it 4 out of the last 5 years, I believe. So we knew what we were coming up against, and we came into the game, and I think the stage messed with us a little bit. So we had to settle in, and that's what happened with them. They got their 2 touchdowns very quickly. One of them was on the pick 6 on that screen pass, and then they drove down the field for another touchdown. So, but then once we settled down, we were able to go back and forth with them and hold that game, shut down their offense pretty much for the most part. And we had our chances. We got Brendan Asensio for the touchdown there, and then right there at the end of the game, we were in it the whole time. So I couldn't have asked for more. We knew that it was going to be a struggle, but we came out there. I just knew going in, I was happy. This is my last football game as a high school player, so I was happy. I just wanted to enjoy it and make the most of it, because whether we win or lose, then I knew it was going to be over, so I had to enjoy that.
Well, Zach, you come in as a freshman and sophomore, learning a position at wide receiver on the varsity squad. Can you talk about the influences, the players that you learned from during that time? And as you progress to junior and then ultimately to your senior year, you start taking on a leadership role, and pretty much as a senior, the leader of that wide receiving core. Talk about who you've learned from and if you've relished a role as one of the leaders on the senior team.
Well, freshman year, I had 2 great role models in Jake Urich, who graduated. He was a senior when I was a freshman, and he's at Notre Dame now. But he was a great receiver, very smart. He was one of the top 20 in his class, so he had a great mind for the game, and I was able to learn a lot from him. And Colin Lisa, of course, who's now at Buffalo playing, he was just, his hands were incredible, so I learned a lot of discipline from him, a lot of different drills that we could apply after he left. And Ryan Black, that was the core 3 to look up to freshman year, and then obviously Ryan the next 2 years as well. But learned a lot from all 3 of them. Drew Podrebaric, who was our quarterback my freshman year, he was a great leader and role model, a really stand-up guy that you could look up to. And then being able to take over the receivers with Chris Trevson and Brooks McCammett this year as the other seniors. It was great just being able to be in that same situation that I remember being in as a freshman, except being able to help those younger kids out and teach them what it's all about.
That's awesome. And, Zach, looking back on your academic and athletic career, maybe aside from the football field, who is that one person that has really had a great influence on you and your life thus far?
I'd have to go with the two people. I'd have to go with my mom and dad, because both of them so important in my life, always supporting me, helping build this passion. And if I messed up, if something wasn't going my way, they always pushed me to stay confident, continue to work hard and succeed, that good things would happen. So obviously my dad more getting me into the football. He played football at Appalachian back in the day. So football's been in my family for years. Then my mom, of course, always just pushing me, cheering for me, being my biggest fan to help me find success on the field. So both of them inspired me a whole lot the past 4 years and my whole life.
Well, Zach, thanks for sharing that. And before we move into the Quickfire Questions, let's talk about the next 4 years. We're winding down here a few more weeks before you graduate, and we know that you're going to be walking on with the Tar Heels with their football program at Chapel Hill. Talk about, your next few months and the next few years up there. What are your plans and what are you looking to major in while you're a student up in Chapel Hill?
Well, major-wise, I'm looking into something in the exercise and sports science field, something with possibly training or physical therapy. So just being around sports, I've always loved sports, so that's definitely an interest of mine. And then football-wise, I've been working out at United States Performance Center. It's kind of up by Stonecrest, but it's a great facility up there. They've got 30 athletes this year alone that will be playing Division I sports next year. So they really produce great results up there. I've got a bunch of other guys. There's some Marvin and Cuthbertson kids up there, but a bunch of Ardrey Kell kids, CMS kids. So getting to talk with some kids that I've played against. But I've just started my Chapel Hill workouts also, so those are pretty intense, the lifts and the running, getting ready to go up there. I leave June 19th, and I'll be up there for summer session, taking some classes and working out with the team.
Has the football program also provided you with a nutritional outline, a diet plan for you to follow?
Yep, I've got a nutrition plan, a lot of guidance there, not so much specifically what to eat, but just general topics like that. Since I've started working out at USPC, I've gained 15 pounds already. So wow. It looks like I'm going to be playing the A position at UNC, the slot receiver, Ryan Switzer. So that their target there is between 175 and 200 for weight, and I'm around 175-ish, and hoping to go up to about 185 before camp, and similar size. So definitely looking forward to that.
I'm sure Coach Carson's looking at you now thinking, man, those extra 15 pounds could have come in handy over these last 4 years.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Zach, we're going to now move on to our quick-fire questions. Shorter, more to the point answers. Not all football related, just to give us a better perspective of you as a person. And so let's get right into it. We know everyone has a smartphone these days. So what is your favorite app on your phone, and describe what it does?
I'd probably go with Twitter on that, just because it lets me connect with my friends, with celebrities, with coaches, just different people that I want to know what's going on with. Just lets me communicate with them easily. But then also, if we're talking games, I'm a big Candy Crush guy. So anytime I've got some downtime, I'll be playing that. So
before we jump into the next question, let me just ask you a little bit more about Twitter. I know a lot of players always cite Twitter as one of their favorite apps. Can you talk about Twitter and the role it played in the recruiting process? Did it play a part in the recruiting process at all?
Definitely. If a coach would come to visit the school, Coach Carson was great about getting guys to come in. So they would usually follow us on Twitter. We'd follow them back, and that made it a lot easier, instead of having to go through phone calls or sending emails, just to send a coach a direct message after a game, let them know your stats, your highlights, just tell them the update of what's been going on with you and have them get back to you quickly and easily. it was definitely a great tool.
Now, you mentioned forwarding stats to coaches. Now, was this something that you were proactively doing, or was this something that the coaches were asking of you?
Well, a bunch of the coaches that had come previously to see me or that I'd seen at camps, they had just said to update them on how the season's going. But specifically to me, each Saturday morning after the game, and Coach Carson would post our film and huddle, I would go through, make my highlight tape for that specific game, get my stats, all of my information, and send that out on a weekly basis to every coach.
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Zach. Now, if you had a chance to meet any athlete, living or deceased, who would it be and why?
I'd probably have to go with Odell Beckham Jr. just because I need some lessons on making those spectacular one-handed catches. I want to know how he does it.
Well, you've made a number of those type of catches over the last few years at Weddington, and I think you almost have an Odell Beckham on your team with Chris Trevison, who's made a number of circus catches this past season.
Definitely, yeah. Chris it doesn't matter if he has a defender or two in his face, he can just sky up there and grab that ball, and that's definitely a bunch of help from basketball for him on the court, just going up and getting a rebound, just treating the football like that. If that ball's in the air, that's his, and he's coming down with it.
Yeah, that was pretty much the case this past season. Zach, your favorite meal?
I'd have to go with two. My mom's spaghetti. That's comfort right there. And then also pregame meal on Thursday nights after walkthroughs. My dad would normally have like a steak and a baked potato or something like that, something very filling to get me ready for the next day's game. So that was always something to look forward to after a week of practice.
Talk about Friday Night Football. What it meant to you and what you will miss most about it.
Well, I'll just miss being out there with my friends, with my brothers. It meant a lot playing with those guys, and specifically Chris Trevison, Mitchell Carson, and Jack Jenkins, because us four together were the only ones that had played on the team each year since sixth grade. So that we just all had a special bond right there, being connected for so long and being on the field together. Coming in sixth grade and winning a middle school championship and then making it to the state championship on our way out. That was special for the four of us.
All right, the last question, one where we can suspend reality and dream a little bit. You have unlimited cash and the ability to jump back and forth through time with no geographical boundaries. Under that scenario, with you in control, describe your perfect sports weekend.
All right, let's see. I would start off the weekend in 2010 at the FIFA World Cup in South Africa. Definitely have to watch Landon Donovan and his game-winning goal in the 91st minute for USA against Algeria. I'm a big World Cup guy. Not so much soccer during the seasons and stuff, but once the World Cup rolls around, got to get all the guys, go over to Hickory Tavern and watch all the matches. It's a great time. So,
nice plug for Hickory Tavern as well.
Yep. Then next, I would go to Chapel Hill in 2012. I would watch the UNC versus NC State football game and see Giovanni Bernard and his game-winning punt return for the touchdown as time expired. That would have been unreal to see. And to finish it off, I would go February 1st, 2004, Panthers versus Patriots in the Super Bowl. And hopefully I could somehow keep John Casey from kicking that ball out of bounds. Help us bring home a title to the QC. I remember being a little kid on the couch, staying up late to watch that and just being heartbroken. So I wish I could change it.
Well, thanks for sharing all of that, Zach. And, I did find it a little ironic that you were joining me here on the sidelines, a place that you were not all too familiar with over your last few years on the sidelines at Weddington High School, as a wide receiver, playing DB, and also holding for Keith Duncan. Talk about, playing that role as a holder for Keith, and how long were you doing that?
I started junior year at our team camp at Wingate. It was between me, Ryan Black, and Chris. Neither of them were really up to it. They didn't want that pressure, so I stepped in and did it. And Keith's one of my best friends, so having that relationship with him, he trusted me, I trusted him, so that really benefited the holding there. But it was tiring if we had a long touchdown running down the field and then trying to catch my breath to make sure I had a good hold for him.
Well, Zach, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, for spending some time with me here on the sidelines. And I just want to let you know that it was a thrill watching you play over the last few years at Weddington High School. And we wish you nothing but success at UNC-Chapel Hill, and look forward to watching you play on Saturday afternoons.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again to Zach Goins for joining me on the sidelines. And one quick reminder to follow me on Twitter at UCNC Football. And of course, for any youth, middle school, and high school football information, camps, combines, anything offered in the county, remember 24/7, 365, UnionCountyFootball.com for all that information.
Thanks for listening to On the Sidelines, the official podcast of UnionCountyFootball.com, the #1 online source for football information in Union County, North Carolina.